William strips. Camilla of all power after she insults King Charles badly in private? Balmoral Castle had seen its share of royal drama over the years, but nothing quite like this. What started as an elegant summer dinner ended with a crack in the crown. A quiet war nobody saw coming. Camilla had always played the game well. She wasn't just a royal by marriage, she was a strategist, someone who fought her way through decades of scandal and public criticism to become queen consort. But one misstep, one sentence, shattered everything she built. It wasn't supposed to be public. Camilla's words, sharp and bitter, were meant for Charles alone. You're not even a king anymore, just William's puppet. A slap disguised as a whisper. She didn't know someone was listening, but someone was, and that someone ran straight to William. By the next morning, the air inside Kensington Palace was stiff with tension. William didn't pace or shout. He didn't need to. He sat in his study, eyes cold, cup of tea forgotten in his hand. His father, the man he'd respected despite their differences, had just been humiliated by the very woman he'd defended for decades. For William, this wasn't about status or protocol. It was about something more personal. Loyalty. And Camilla had crossed the line. That afternoon, he called for her. No announcement, no warning. A private room in Windsor Castle. Camilla walked in, dressed like a queen. But William wasn't interested in appearances. He looked her in the eye and delivered a sentence sharper than any crown jewel. You insulted my father. You crossed a line. Camilla tried to lie, of course. Claimed it was a private conversation between husband and wife. But William wasn't buying it. There was a witness, he said flatly. You called him weak, a puppet. The room felt like it shrank with every word. Camilla left with her head high, but she already knew the cost. William wasn't just the heir, he was becoming the power behind the throne. And he wasn't done. The next few days unfolded like a calculated takedown. Her sister Annabelle? Fired. Her longtime aides reassigned. Charity events she'd been prepping for months, gone. Catherine was announced as the new face of them all, smiling, graceful, adored. Camilla's name didn't even appear in the press briefings. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was silent, surgical, royal warfare. She stormed into Charles's office at Clarence House, boiling with rage, demanded he fix it. You're the king, she shouted. Stop your son from tearing me apart, but Charles just sat there, older, quieter, worn down from years of conflict. He's doing what he believes is right, he told her, voice barely above a whisper. What you said hurt not just me, but the crown. That's when Camilla knew. She wasn't just losing power, she was losing the one person who used to shield her. She didn't cry, not yet, but in that moment, standing in her husband's office, something cracked inside her. And for the first time since that dinner at Balmoral, she was afraid. Not of William, of being forgotten, because the royal machine was already moving without her. Whispers in the palace corridors, meetings she was no longer invited to, allies who stopped returning her calls. All it took was one sentence, one moment of anger, and the walls she'd spent decades building started crumbling like sand. But Camilla wasn't the kind of woman to sit quietly in exile. She had survived worse, and in her mind, a plan was already forming. If they wanted a war, she would give them one. William didn't wait for the dust to settle. He moved with the kind of precision that made it clear this wasn't revenge, it was cleanup. He saw the monarchy as a crumbling house and Camilla as a crack spreading through the foundation. And if he wanted to preserve the crown, he had to act before the rot reached the walls. So he went to the one person who could make this official, King Charles. Balmoral's ancient library was thick with silence when father and son finally sat across from each other. Charles looked smaller than usual, not just in body, but in presence. Like the weight of the crown had finally crushed something inside him. He listened as William laid out every step, every reason, the insult, the disrespect, the danger of letting it slide. She's your wife, William said, but she can't be the face of this family anymore. Charles didn't argue. He just lowered his gaze, his fingers twitching against the desk like they were reaching for something. Maybe a reason to fight back, maybe just a little more strength, but it never came. "I'll authorize it," he said quietly. "Do what you must." A signed document followed the next morning, stamped with the royal seal. William now had full authority to stabilize internal affairs. That was the official language. The real meaning, Camilla was done. 3 days later, Buckingham Palace called a closed-door meeting. Only the most trusted were present: King Charles, Princess Anne, Catherine, and a small circle of senior advisors. At the head of the table stood William, calm and cold. He laid it all out like a prosecutor in court. "She undermined the king," he said plainly. "She sowed division in this family. She insulted the very institution we exist to protect." Then came the evidence. First-hand testimony from Thomas Harrow, the aging royal advisor who'd overheard the Balmoral outburst. When he spoke, the room fell silent. There was no spin, no confusion, just Camilla's words recited back like a courtroom transcript. Charles didn't interrupt. He sat motionless, jaw clenched, staring at the table as Harrow's voice echoed through the room. Then came the final blow. A letter from Charles himself, read aloud by Sir Edward Langley, the royal constitutional advisor. In it, the king acknowledged the truth of what had been said, confirmed the breach of trust, and endorsed William's authority to protect the dignity and stability of the monarchy. Camilla didn't speak. She was there, yes, but as the letter was read, she sat stone still, her fingers twisted in her lap. No one met her eyes, not even Charles. William stepped forward. "You are no longer fit to represent this family," he said, each word like a guillotine drop. "You've lost the right to speak for the crown." No one objected. Not Anne, not Catherine, not even the old loyalist who once stood behind Camilla when she clawed her way into royal status. They all knew it was over. That night, a royal decree was quietly sent to media outlets. Camilla would be stepping back from public duties for personal health reasons. A neat little cover story. No fireworks, no scandal, just silence. The next morning, she was gone. A black car rolled out of Clarence House before sunrise, headed north to her private estate in Northumberland. No press, no goodbye. Just Camilla in the backseat, clutching the same pearl necklace she wore the night everything unraveled. She still held the title. But it meant nothing now. Raymill House was cold, even in summer. Physically, Camilla had staff, heating, all the comforts of aristocratic exile, but cold in a way that settled into the bones. The halls were quiet, the walls unresponsive. No calls, no invitations, no cameras, just silence, thick and heavy. She sat by the window most days, staring out at the gray skies rolling over Northumberland's fields, the same view she once found peaceful, now feeling like punishment. Her phone buzzed rarely, and when it did, it was never Charles, not even a message. Her children checked in here and there. Tom sent short texts, Laura offered sympathy, but even they sensed the shift. The palace had frozen her out, and everyone else followed. The newspapers played along. Buckingham's statement was clean, almost surgical. Queen Camilla will step back from public duties to focus on personal matters, not a word more. Behind closed doors, however, the whispers spread like wildfire. Palace aides, political figures, noble circles. Everyone knew. William had won, Camilla had been dethroned without ever losing her title. She tried writing to Charles. Long, emotional letters, some pleading, some angry, all unanswered. Not even a reply from his secretaries. It was like she'd vanished from his world, like the last 20 years had been folded up and shelved away. In the place where she once walked proudly beside him, she now existed only in memory. And barely even that. Meanwhile, the monarchy was changing. William and Catherine wasted no time. They weren't just filling Camilla's spot, they were reinventing the entire institution. Out went the grand balls and stiff traditions. In came school visits, mental health initiatives, climate programs. Catherine took over every charity Camilla once nurtured and breathed new life into them. The press ate it up. Young, modern royals, a fresh face for the crown. Behind the scenes, William reshaped the palace itself. Advisors were reshuffled, roles reassigned. The entire structure streamlined around a single vision: clean, united, forward-facing. There was no room left for bitterness, no space for scandal. Camilla's name was removed from official schedules, event programs, even the palace website. No announcement, no explanation, just erased. But Camilla wasn't done. In her mind, the flame still burned, small but fierce. She told herself this was temporary, that the tides would turn, that Charles would realize the cost of letting her fall. She spoke to the few allies she had left, quietly testing waters, trying to rally support, but most of them had already made their choice. Staying loyal to her meant risking exile themselves. She felt it every day, that tightening around her, the isolation. The palace hadn't just removed her, it had made her irrelevant. Still, she refused to break. She took walks through the gardens at dawn, dressed herself every morning like cameras might show up, kept up her routines with the discipline of someone holding on to control. Her pearls never left her neck, not because they matched her outfits, but because they were her armor. "They think I'm done," she whispered one morning, watching the sun rise through a veil of fog, "but I've come back from worse." She didn't know if Charles would ever forgive her, she didn't know if the public would care. But in her heart, Camilla clung to the belief that history would not close the book on her so easily, and somewhere in the silence of exile, she began writing her next chapter, even if no one was ready to read it yet.